The first thing I heard was the echo of laughter from the driveway. It was sharp, mocking, like it didn't belong to my family anymore. My son's wife, Claire, was filming herself on her phone, twirling around in the sunlight. "Dubai, here we come!" she shouted, tossing her blonde hair over her shoulder. My son, Daniel, stood beside her, smiling weakly, the way he always did when he didn't know which side to take. I stood on the porch holding a dish towel, my hands trembling slightly. "Mom," Claire said, like she was announcing it to a crowd, "you're too old to fly to Dubai with us. We can't risk you getting tired or sick on the trip. You just stay here and take care of the house. We'll be back in 2 weeks." Her voice was sweet, but it stung like a slap. I felt my chest tighten. I wasn't sick. I wasn't fragile. I was 58, for heaven's sake, and had raised Daniel alone after his father left. I had paid off this house brick by brick. I had worked double shifts at the hospital to make sure he could go to college, and now I was a babysitter for my own home. I tried to speak, but Claire was already turning back to her phone, narrating her perfect life to strangers. "Say bye to Mum. She's going to keep everything safe for us." Daniel hugged me quickly, but his eyes avoided mine. They loaded their glossy new suitcases into the Uber and drove off, leaving me standing there in the cool morning air, staring at the empty driveway. I turned back into the house and the silence was unbearable. Their perfume and cologne lingered in the hallway, too sweet, too fake. I walked through the rooms, touching the furniture I had picked, the walls I had painted. I thought about all the times Claire had suggested changes, about how Daniel had slowly started calling it their house, not mine. And now, I was just a caretaker. That night, I sat in my recliner, unable to sleep. The house felt like a cage, memories pressed in from every side. Daniel running through the hallways as a boy, me crying into my pillow when bills piled up, the smell of birthday cakes I baked every year. I felt the heat rise behind my eyes. I had given them everything, and they had left me behind. On the third day, the phone rang. It was my friend Sylvia. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. "I saw Claire's post. I can't believe they left you." I laughed bitterly. They didn't leave me. They promoted me to housekeeper. Sylvia paused, then lowered her voice. "You know, you still own that house. Your name is on the deed, right?" I froze. My fingers tightened around the phone. "Yes. Why?" "Well," she said slowly, "if they don't appreciate you, maybe it's time they learn a lesson." I spent the next hour pacing the kitchen, my bare feet cold on the tiles. Her words echoed in my head like a drumbeat. I went to the filing cabinet in the study and pulled out the deed. My name. Only my name. My heart pounded. A plan, dangerous and thrilling, began to form in my mind. That night, I barely slept. I imagined Claire's face when she came home to find everything different. The next morning, I made the first call. "Yes," I said to the realtor. "I want to sell the house, cash offer only, and I want it done fast." "Are you sure?" he asked. "This is a beautiful property." "I've never been more sure in my life," I replied, my voice steady. The process moved faster than I expected. By the 5th day, I had a serious buyer. By the 8th, the papers were signed. The money was in my account, more than enough to start over somewhere far away. On the 10th day, movers came. I watched them carry out the furniture, the rugs, the art Daniel and Claire never cared about. Every thud and scrape felt like a heartbeat. I left the rooms empty, silent, stripped of everything. On the 12th day, I stood in the driveway with the keys in my hand. I took one last deep breath of the air I had once called home, then dropped the keys in an envelope for the buyer. When I drove away, I felt free. On the 14th day, I got the text. "Mum? Where's the house?" My phone buzzed over and over, dozens of messages, then a call. I answered, my voice calm. "Oh," I said softly, "I guess I should have told you. The house is gone." There was silence. Then Claire's shriek. "What do you mean, gone?" "I sold it," I said. "Enjoy your trip?" The sound of chaos erupted on the other end. Daniel shouting, Claire screaming, luggage clattering. And then, suddenly, there was a knock on the door of my motel room. I froze. No one was supposed to know where I was. Slowly, I walked to the door, heart pounding, and opened it, and my jaw dropped. Standing there was Daniel. My son. His hair was a mess, his shirt wrinkled, and his eyes were wide with panic and rage. Behind him in the hallway of the cheap motel, I could see Claire standing with her arms crossed, her designer luggage tipped over, and her face twisted in disbelief. "Mom," Daniel said, his voice low and shaking. What did you do?" My fingers trembled on the doorframe, but I didn't move. "I sold the house," I said evenly. "I told you in the text." Claire shoved past him and stepped into the room like she owned it. "You can't just sell our house," she shrieked, her voice echoing off the peeling motel wallpaper. I stared at her, feeling a strange calm wash over me. "Our house," I repeated. "Funny. I don't remember seeing your name on the deed." Claire's mouth opened and closed like a fish, and Daniel grabbed her arm. "Honey, please." "No, Daniel," she snapped. "She's insane. Who does this? We were gone for 2 weeks." I took a deep breath. 2 weeks where you left me behind, treated me like a servant, called me too old, like I didn't exist except to water your plants and keep your floor clean. You wanted me to take care of the house. I did. I took care of it by making sure it was no longer my problem. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes wet. "Mum, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't know Claire would say that. I was going to call you from Dubai, but what?" I cut in, my voice sharp. "You were too busy living the perfect life, posting selfies by the pool while your mother sat alone in the house she built for you." His shoulders slumped, and for a moment he looked like the little boy I used to comfort after nightmares. But then Claire grabbed his arm and yanked him back. "Don't you dare feel sorry for her! She ruined everything!" Her voice rose to a screech. "Where are we supposed to live now?" I turned and pointed at the 2 suitcases by the wall. "That's not my problem anymore," Claire gasped. You're heartless," she screamed. "You're an old, bitter witch. You'll regret this." I almost laughed. "Heartless?" After all the years I sacrificed for Daniel, after paying for his education, cooking his meals, keeping a roof over his head, now I was heartless because I refused to be their doormat. Daniel's phone buzzed in his hand, and he glanced at it with a pale face. "It's the buyer," he muttered. They already moved in." Claire snatched the phone and started yelling, pacing the room. "No, you can't. That's our house. We'll sue you. She froze. Her eyes widened as she read the response on the screen. Slowly, she turned to me. They said the papers are clean, and the sale can't be reversed." Her voice cracked, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. Daniel sank onto the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Mum," he said finally, looking up at me, his voice breaking. Where are we supposed to go?" I leaned against the dresser, letting the weight of my decision settle between us. "I don't know, Daniel. Maybe a hotel. Maybe a rental. Maybe you'll finally understand what it feels like to start over." Claire stormed to the window and yanked the curtain open, her chest heaving. "This isn't over," she hissed. "We'll find a way to get it back. I swear we will." I tilted my head. "Good luck with that. I have the money. The house is theirs now." For the next hour they sat in my room, whispering, arguing, panicking. I listened silently, feeling like I was watching strangers. My own son, manipulated by a woman who had turned him against me. My phone buzzed again and I glanced at the message. "Sylvia. Are you okay?" I smiled faintly and texted back. "Better than ever." Suddenly Claire spun toward me. "We're staying here tonight," she declared. "You owe us that much." I stared at her in disbelief. I owe you nothing, I said. You need to leave. We have nowhere else to go, she screamed. Then figure it out, I replied calmly. She lunged forward like she was going to slap me, but Daniel caught her arm. Claire, stop, he yelled. You're making it worse. She jerked away from him, her face red. No, Daniel, she's making it worse. She's going to ruin us. She stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Daniel lingered by the door. His shoulders slumped. Mum, he said softly. Please, don't do this to me. I hesitated. My heart twisted, but then I remembered standing on that porch, hearing Claire's voice tell me I was too old, like I was already dead to them. I didn't do this to you, I said. You let it happen. He looked at me like he wanted to say more, then turned and left. The room went silent again, except for the hum of the old air conditioner. I sank onto the bed, suddenly exhausted. But then another knock on the door. My stomach dropped. I hesitated, then opened it slowly. And this time it wasn't Daniel. It was... Standing there in the dim motel hallway was a tall man in a dark suit, his silhouette framed by the flickering neon light outside. He wasn't smiling. His presence sent a shiver down my spine. I gripped the edge of the door, my throat dry. Mrs. Collins, he asked, his voice deep and deliberate. I nodded cautiously. Yes, that's me. He held up a badge and a folder. I'm Detective Harris with the City Police. I need to speak with you about a report filed earlier this evening. My chest tightened. A report? My eyes darted down the hall, half expecting to see Claire lurking in the shadows, but it was empty. What report? I asked. The detective's gaze didn't waver. Your son and his wife claim that the house you sold was not fully yours to sell. They're alleging fraud and unlawful eviction. My stomach twisted. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. That's ridiculous. The deed was in my name. I bought that house 30 years ago. I paid off the mortgage myself. There was no joint ownership. It's mine. He flipped open the folder and scanned it with a penlight. They're saying there was an informal agreement that they had partial ownership after contributing to renovations. They've also filed for an emergency injunction to freeze the funds from the sale. My pulse pounded in my ears. Claire, of course. I could practically hear her smug voice behind this move, spinning lies to claw back what she thought was hers. Detective, I did nothing wrong, I said firmly, even though my hands were shaking. He studied me for a moment, then lowered his voice. I'm not here to arrest anyone tonight, but I need you to be aware. If this goes to civil court, they'll try to make your life miserable, especially if they have an aggressive attorney. My knees felt weak. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the mattress creaking beneath me. They left me behind, I whispered. Called me too old to travel. Treated me like a housekeeper, and now they want to punish me for standing up for myself. The detective's expression softened slightly. I understand family disputes can get ugly, but they're desperate. I just needed to warn you. A sharp bang rattled the thin motel wall behind him, and I flinched. He glanced over his shoulder. You might want to get a more secure place to stay for a while. Looks like they're not giving up. He handed me his card and left, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. I sat frozen for a long time, the air heavy and stale, until my phone buzzed again. It was a new message. Meet me outside. We need to talk. No name. I hesitated, peeking through the grimy curtain. In the parking lot under the yellow light stood a figure in a hoodie, leaning against a black SUV. My first instinct was fear, but then curiosity burned hotter. Slowly, I slipped on my shoes and opened the door. The night air was sticky and warm, carrying the faint smell of gasoline. My heart thudded as I walked closer, and the figure stepped forward, pulling down the hood. My breath caught. It was Sylvia, my old neighbour, from across the street. Her face was tense, her voice urgent. "I didn't want to text too much," she said quickly. "Claire's been talking to everyone. She's spreading lies about you, saying you cheated them, that you're unstable. But that's not all." She glanced over her shoulder nervously, then leaned closer. "She's trying to get someone to break into your old house tonight. She wants proof that you left things behind that belonged to her." My stomach dropped. "Break in? But it's not their house anymore." "I know," Sylvia interrupted. "But she doesn't care. She's angry and desperate. I thought you should know." A car door slammed somewhere in the distance, and we both jumped. Sylvia clutched my arm. "You need to be careful. They're not going to stop until they get what they want." My head spun. I glanced back at the motel, then at Sylvia's SUV. A sudden thought struck me. If Claire was willing to break the law to get her way, then this wasn't just about the house anymore. This was war. Sylvia's eyes darted past me, and her grip on my arm tightened. "Oh no," she whispered. "They're here." I spun around and froze. Daniel's car had just pulled into the parking lot, headlights off, creeping like a predator, and in the driver's seat wasn't Daniel. It was Claire. She rolled the window down slowly, and the look in her eyes sent a chill through me. "Going somewhere, Mommy?" she said in a voice so sweet it made my skin crawl. Then the back door of the car opened. The back door of the car creaked open, and the first thing I saw was a glint of something metallic. My heart jumped into my throat. Then a figure stepped out. Daniel. His face was tight, his eyes cold, and his jaw clenched like he was holding back a storm. He shut the car door slowly, and in his right hand he carried a crowbar. I took a step back instinctively, my shoulder brushing Sylvia's. She whispered, "Oh my God," but I couldn't respond. My own son walked toward me in the parking lot of that shabby motel, his footsteps heavy, his shadow long under the yellow light. "Mum," he said finally, his voice low and sharp, "we need to talk." I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Daniel, what are you doing here with that thing?" I gestured toward the crowbar. He didn't answer right away. Claire leaned against the car, her arms crossed, her smirk illuminated by the dull glow of the overhead light. "She's going to pretend she doesn't know Danny," she said with a mocking laugh. "She's been hiding from us like a guilty little thief." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "I am not a thief. That house was mine long before you or Claire ever stepped into it. I paid for it. I maintained it. I lived there through storms, through winters, through everything. And you abandoned me, called me too old, treated me like I was some maid." My voice cracked on the last word, and Daniel's expression flickered, but just for a second. "Mom," he said again, softer this time, we just wanted to understand why. Why would you sell the house like that, without even talking to us?" I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest. "Talk to you? When you left me behind like old furniture? When you flew to Dubai and told me to take care of the house as if I was your servant?" My words echoed off the empty parking lot, and for a moment no one spoke. Sylvia squeezed my elbow gently, like she was silently telling me to stay strong. Claire clicked her tongue, her face twisting. "You're making this way more dramatic than it needs to be. We were offering you a quiet life. All you had to do was stay put and not embarrass yourself. But now, you've crossed the line, and we're taking back what's ours." My blood ran cold. "Yours?" I repeated. "That house was never yours. Not by law, not by blood, not by anything." Daniel stepped closer, the crowbar glinting as his hand trembled. "We're not here to hurt you, Mum," he said carefully, though his voice betrayed his anger. "We just need to know where the money is. If you give us the money, maybe we can work something out before it goes to court." My pulse hammered in my ears. "You think I'm going to hand over my future after the way you treated me?" I hissed. "You can't scare me into giving you anything." For a moment Daniel's eyes softened, and I thought maybe just maybe, he remembered I was his mother. But Claire shattered that moment like glass. "Danny," she said coldly, "enough of this. If she won't talk, we'll just take what we need. I told you she'd be stubborn. Move her out of the way." Sylvia gasped and stepped in front of me. "You lay one hand on her and I'll call the cops right now," she snapped. "I heard everything you just said." Claire's smile turned predatory. "Oh, the nosy neighbour, still clinging to her old friend, huh? Maybe you'd like to be part of this little family dispute." Daniel hesitated, his grip on the crowbar loosening slightly, but his shoulders were still rigid with conflict. The air felt electric, every second stretching longer than the last. Then, suddenly, the motel's office door banged open and a man stepped out, grizzled, heavyset, holding a shotgun. "Hey!" he barked, his voice booming. "I don't know what's going on out here, but you need to get off my property if you're causing trouble." Claire flinched and tugged Daniel's arm, whispering something urgent. Daniel's jaw clenched as he shot me one last look, a mixture of anger and something else I couldn't read. They got back into the car, the engine roaring to life. I thought they were leaving. I thought the nightmare was over for the night. But then, as the car pulled toward the exit, Claire rolled her window down, her voice slicing through the heavy air. "You'll regret this," she said, her eyes like knives. "Tomorrow, everyone will know what you really are." And then they were gone, taillights vanishing into the darkness. My legs buckled, and Sylvia caught me, guiding me back toward the room. The motel owner watched us carefully before lowering his shotgun and retreating inside. I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, my hands trembling, my heart still racing. Sylvia paced the room, muttering, "This is out of control. They're dangerous. They're actually dangerous." I stared at my phone on the nightstand, wondering if I should call the detective. But then a new notification buzzed. My stomach sank as I picked it up. A social media post, Claire's account. My name plastered across a bright red background with the words, "Thief, liar, elderly abuser." My hands shook as I scrolled. She'd uploaded a video too, Daniel pretending to look heartbroken, saying I'd stolen the house from them while they were on vacation. Comments were already pouring in. People I didn't even know were calling me names, threatening me, telling me to give the house back. My throat tightened. "They're destroying me," I whispered. Sylvia sat beside me, her face pale. "We need a plan, a real one, because they're not stopping until they take you down." And just as she said that, a loud thud shook the motel wall. Then another. I froze. Sylvia's eyes widened. We turned toward the window. Two figures in dark hoodies were outside, and one of them was holding a red canister. Gasoline. My breath caught. One of them struck a match. The flame flickered in the darkness. The flicker of that tiny flame froze my blood. It was like the world narrowed to that one trembling light, swaying in the night breeze just outside the grimy motel window. Sylvia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, and I could hear the whisper of her terrified words. "Oh no, oh my God, they're going to burn us out." My chest felt like it caved in. I stumbled backward, grabbing for the nightstand, knocking the lamp to the floor with a crash. The figures outside flinched for a moment, then one of them raised the gas can higher, tilting it toward the base of the building. The smell hit next. Sharp. Bitter. Gasoline fumes invaded the room even through the thin window pane. "Call 911, I choked out, lunging for my phone, but my hands were shaking so violently that it slipped from my fingers twice before I could dial. Sylvia darted to the window and yanked the curtains shut, her voice breaking. They can't do this." But the sound of liquid splashing onto the dry gravel outside told us they absolutely could. My thumbs finally hit the numbers. The phone rang once, twice. Then, like a miracle, a deafening yell shattered the night. "Hey, what are you doing out there?" The motel owner's voice boomed like thunder, and the shotgun blast that followed was purely into the air. But it was enough. The hooded figures bolted like startled animals, sprinting toward the parking lot and disappearing into the darkness beyond the single flickering streetlight. My heart refused to slow. Sylvia clutched my arm, both of us frozen, listening to the echo of retreating footsteps. Then the motel owner pounded on our door. I staggered over and opened it, still trembling. His face was red with fury. "Are you kidding me?" I almost had to call the sheriff myself. "Who are these people and why are they trying to torch my property?" I stammered. My son and his wife. They think I stole something from them. They want to ruin me." His eyes darkened with disgust. "I don't care what family drama you've got going on. If they come back, I'm shooting for real next time. Get your mess under control, lady, or you're gone." He turned and stomped away, muttering curses. I closed the door slowly, the room sinking into an awful silence. Sylvia's voice quivered. "This isn't just about the house anymore. They're unhinged. They're dangerous. They'll destroy you and anyone near you if you don't fight back." My breath shuddered in and out. I can't believe my own son would do this to me. But deep down, I could. He had Claire in his ear, twisting him, turning him against me until I wasn't his mother anymore. I was an obstacle, a wallet, a pawn. I sat on the bed, staring at my phone, watching new notifications roll in every few seconds. Social media had become a tidal wave of hatred overnight. She's a scammer. Imagine stealing from your own kids. Rot in jail. The video Claire posted was spreading fast, and my name, my real name, was trending locally. My stomach twisted so hard I had to grip the blanket just to stay upright. "They're going to ruin my entire life before the truth even comes out," I whispered. Sylvia crouched in front of me, grabbing my hands. "Then we get ahead of them. We make a move they can't come back from." I stared into her eyes, desperate. "What move?" She hesitated, glancing toward the duffel bag under the bed, the one holding the last of my savings, the documents from the lawyer, the proof that I'd sold the house legally and transferred the funds exactly as I had the right to. "You still have the papers?" she asked softly. I nodded. "Then we fight this. Not with violence, with proof, with something that will humiliate them the way they tried to humiliate you." My brain sparked with a dangerous thought. What if we don't just clear my name? What if we make them answer for every single lie they've told? Sylvia's lips curled into a grim smile. "Now that is the mother I know." The plan formed slowly, piece by piece, through the next day. I filed a police report about the motel attack, giving the officer as much detail as I could. He raised an eyebrow when I mentioned my son, but promised to document it. Meanwhile, I called the lawyer who helped me sell the house, and he confirmed he still had the signed documents, dated before Daniel and Claire's trip. "They can scream all they want," he said. "They have no case, and if they push this, they'll end up in trouble themselves." But the hate online didn't stop. My phone buzzed non-stop. People sent messages I couldn't even repeat. Videos and memes of me circulated, painting me as some greedy old witch. And then, just as I thought it couldn't get worse, a letter slid under the motel room door. I froze. The envelope was plain white, my name scrawled in black marker. My hands shook as I picked it up. Sylvia hovered behind me as I tore it open. One single photograph slid out and I nearly dropped it. It was a picture of me, taken from outside the motel window while I slept. My blood turned to ice. Sylvia grabbed the photo, her face blanching. "They're watching us, right now. Oh my God." A faint scratching noise came from the motel wall, then 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the window. 3 slow knocks echoed against the thin motel window, each one rattling the glass like a heartbeat in the dark. My chest tightened as I froze in place, clutching the photograph in my trembling hands. It was me, sleeping, unaware, that they'd captured. My skin prickled. Sylvia's grip on my shoulder tightened, and I could hear her breath shaking beside me. The room felt too small, too exposed, like the walls themselves were leaning in to listen. A voice floated through the glass, low and distorted. "You can't hide forever, Mum." Daniel. My son. My heart broke and boiled all at once. I wanted to cry, to scream, to reach through the glass and shake him awake from whatever spell Claire had over him. Sylvia's whisper trembled in my ear. "We can't wait. We need to end this tonight." I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. My fear hardened into something else. Resolve. I would not be hunted, not by my own flesh and blood. I moved to the nightstand and grabbed the folder holding the sale documents, the bank receipt, and the lawyer's signed statement. "This is our weapon," I said. "If they want a war, we'll give them the truth and the law." The next morning, before sunrise, I called my lawyer again. He arranged a quick meeting at his office downtown. Sylvia and I slipped out of the motel as quietly as we could, scanning the parking lot like fugitives. The car we'd seen last night was gone, but that didn't calm me. I could feel their eyes somewhere in the shadows. At the law office, everything snapped into motion. The lawyer prepared an emergency injunction against Daniel and Claire for harassment and defamation. He also helped me contact a local news station. I was hesitant at first, but then I thought of the hundreds of cruel messages I'd gotten, of strangers calling me a thief based on a lie. "If they want a public fight," I said, "then let's go public." By noon, a reporter with a camera stood in the law office lobby. My voice wavered at first, but then I thought of that match in the dark, the smell of gasoline, and my words grew steady. I told the whole story, how they left me behind, how they tried to ruin me, and how they even came after me in the night. I held up the signed papers for the camera. "I didn't steal anything," I said, my voice breaking. "But I won't let my own family terrorize me." That interview aired the same evening. By the next morning, my phone exploded, but this time with messages of support. People saw the proof. They saw the photo I shared of the motel attack, the shot of me sleeping that Claire had taken, and the vile comments she'd posted. The tide turned fast. Even their friends started calling them out. It wasn't long before the police got involved fully. The motel owner's report, the photograph, and the social media evidence were more than enough. A warrant was issued for harassment and attempted arson. When Daniel and Claire were finally picked up, I watched from the corner of the courthouse hallway. My son's eyes met mine for the first time without anger. For the first time, I saw shame. Claire hissed at reporters, but no one listened to her anymore. Weeks passed, and the silence was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. The house, my house, was gone, yes, but so was the nightmare of living in it surrounded by betrayal. I used the money from the sale to buy a small place near Sylvia, a home filled with light and peace instead of shadows. One evening, as I sipped tea on my porch, a letter arrived. Daniel had written from jail. "Mum, I'm sorry. I let her turn me against you. I see it now. I hope one day you can forgive me." I folded the letter and set it aside. Forgiveness would take time. But as the sun set over my quiet new home, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't too old to fly, and I was never too old to fight back.